So now I got this unfinished refrigerator and I got to figure out how to enclose the sides of it to make it look good.
Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to Motor City Boat Werks. Let's get to work. Welcome back to the shop. Thanks for joining me. I especially want to take a moment to welcome the workers, those of you who have been donating to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. There's a lot of activity going on inside the Boat Werks as I approach the winter months. I've got a lot of components slowly trickling into the shop as I try and figure out how the systems are all gonna go together. A little while ago, I did an episode on choosing a 12-volt refrigerator for the pocket trawler behind me. I finally made my choice and picked the Isotherm Cruise Elegance 85-liter 12-volt refrigerator. The only problem with this refrigerator is that it didn't come with finished sides all the way around, and because of where the refrigerator is going to be positioned inside the boat, well, it's kind of obvious. So I have to come up with some sort of a enclosure. I like to call it a refrigerator cowling that's going to kind of make everything look dressed and finished properly. This episode is going to be about the refrigerator cabinet, how I built it, and ultimately came up with the refrigerator cowling design. Before I take the refrigerator up into the boat, I think now's a good time to go ahead and change out the door hinges so that I can get the door to open opposite the way it came from the factory. I want it to open to the left. That seems to be the best way to get access to the refrigerator when you're inside the galley on the boat. So we're gonna swap these out, and this is what it looks like. There are some hinges up here. They were originally on this side. We pull them out and we swap them, and we put that one over here, and then the other one from the base comes over here. The door slots inside here. It's just a matter of changing everything out. It's fairly simple construction on this thing. A little bit of IKEA photographs here explaining what it is you're supposed to be doing. Basically, we take this, we bring it over here. This is going to go like right here. Be very careful. There's a washer on here. Once I hand tighten all the hardware and hinges back in place, it's time to reinstall the door. It only goes on one way. Everything should line up so there's a nice seal on the front door. Here you can see how the door opens. It gives me an idea of what the structure might look like to make the refrigerator cowling. This project is perfect for PVC Foam Board. It goes by the trade name Celtec, Sintra, or Komatex. It's basically PVC plastic with a dense close cell structure. If you're not familiar with this product, be sure to check out my playlist for Kusa board and the composites that I use in my amateur boat building projects. PVC foam board is very lightweight. It's rigid. It's a hard plastic product. It's impervious to water, bugs, rot. No matter what people tell you, this is not the same thing as PVC trim, this brand name Aztec that you will find at your do-it-yourself big box store. It's not the same. I want to take a moment and talk about something. Since I've been doing these episodes where I build things out of PVC foam board and I make various items for my boat out of this material, there have been some other folks on YouTube who are now talking about this material and what can be done with it. There's a little bit of misinformation that I think really needs to be kind of addressed. I've said it before and I'll say it again, PVC foam board is not appropriate for any sort of a structural type of construction on the boat. It has a tendency to bend, and it's not particularly rigid for like a structural situation. In fact, if I was to keep bending on this, I would ultimately be able to get this material to fail and maybe even break in half. I've heard folks talk about using PVC foam board as a sort of backing plate, or maybe even some sort of a shim for a stanchion or something like that. This is not an appropriate application. PVC foam board will compress if you put enough weight on it. You can see just now how easy the surface is damaged. Well, you definitely wouldn't want to put a stanchion on top of this. There are a lot of folks who repeat things that they've heard on the internet or they watched on someone else's YouTube channel. I'm here to tell you, there's no substitute for actually working with this material yourself and understanding what it can and cannot be used for. I've built a number of items for my boat using Celtec. I usually do a mock-up using the pink foam or cardboard method and then transfer it to the PVC material. The actual construction is done using what I call the screw and glue method. This is where I use drywall screws to hold the pieces together using epoxy resin in the joints with fillets and sometimes some extra fiberglass backing.
If you're enjoying this episode, would you do me a favor? Hit the like button and maybe leave a comment below. I invite you to subscribe. And if you really want to help out the channel, well, please consider leaving a donation on Patreon. This channel would not be possible without your support. Today I'm working on the cowling for the 12-volt refrigerator. There's a refrigerator cabinet and this cowling sits on top of it. It kind of hides all the guts of the refrigerator, makes everything look finished out. And it's basically a two-sided cabinet. I'm going to be putting some teak on the facings here, kind of using the same technique that I used on the cockpit table that I made out of PVC foam board. It has some teak trim around it. And what I do is I glue the teak in place beforehand, finish it out afterwards, so that everything fits properly. It's basically going to look like this. Right, it's a piece of teak trim that goes here. But we got to get this in place because ultimately this sharp edge right here, I don't know if you can see it, right here, this sharp edge has got to be sanded down, kind of give it a little bit of a smooth round over like we have here on the PVC. So we got to get this in place. So it's not the best way to do it, but it does work, and it's the technique I used on the table. I think we're gonna try this again and see what happens. So in this case, I used some thickened epoxy and 405 filleting blend. It's kind of a brownish color, which I think will blend the best with the teak. We could have used teak dust, but you need quite a bit of it to get it thick when you're doing that. I like the teak dust for cracks, screw holes, things like that. We do all this first, and then we come back and put the clamps on in position. See, everything moved. When we put the clamps on, we got to make sure the ends are in the right spot and the joint down there is put together. Right now we got to get most of this up clean. So we're eventually going to tape this off. We'll paint everything. Then we'll tape off the paint and we'll...
For this particular project, I epoxy the teak trim in place. I want it to be integral to the actual cowling itself. I'll tape it off later when I do the painting. On a piece like this that only has two sides, everything's got to be integrated.
Today in the Boat Werks, I'm doing a little fairing on the round-over edge on the refrigerator cowling. After you put some paint on it, you'll notice that the seam might show through, or where the screw heads used to go, well, they need to be kind of dressed up. So I put a little fairing compound on it, sand it down, get everything ready for a nice coat of paint.
And that is what it looks like. I am really happy with how this turned out. The door opens the right way, everything is looking good. I especially designed the back of the cowling so that it would be open. This way the compressor will run most efficiently. This is a moment of completion.
From conception to actually making it, this is a project that has been in the making for over 5 years. Now I finally got everything together. I'll get it hooked up down the road. Trust me, like a lot of items here in the Boat Werks, things can't be hooked up just yet. I'm still in the process of designing and building out the electrical system for the boat. There'll be other episodes where I talk about how I do that and what it all entails. In the meantime, I think this is a moment to say this project is done. Thanks for stopping by my Boat Werks. I hope to see you next time. Stay motivated.